Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 331, sponsored by Excelsior Music Publishing and Premier Music Teaching Aids. I'm here with Chris Oberholtzer talking jazz today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Beautiful. For people who don't know you, tell us 30 seconds on what you do and why you're here.
I am the Director of Jazz Studies here at the University of Southern Maine in Portland, Maine, and we are currently hosting Jazz All-State here in Maine this weekend. I'm a trombonist. I lead a big band, been teaching college for almost 3 decades now.
Yep.
And do a lot of clinic work and ensemble work with younger students as well, and enjoy all of it.
And I think a lot of what we want to talk today about is finding ways to simplify what we look at in jazz, especially in improvisation, and really seeing what's going on. Because as teachers, if we're not trained in that, we're going to see a lot of symbols that all mean something, but in some ways you can ignore some of it to make it simpler for you and your students to start. Right. And we're going to talk about ways to do it, and then times when you can't do that and you need to know all of it. So I'll just start with a story that you were part of and you know about, but to share with people that I was back at Jazz All-State. Do you remember what year it was at All-State when you gave the clinic on autumn leaves?
I don't.
I'm going to say 2011, something like that. But for me, and I'd been in, Skeft's high school jazz band, and I'd been in all the UNH bands, but like I hadn't learned some of the basic things. And when you said that if you see a minor followed by a dominant followed by a major chord, that's all one major scale. It's called a 2-5-1. And like I knew that, but I didn't realize I didn't have to play C minor and then followed by F7 and then that it's all just B flat, right? And then you said, well, this is what a minor one looks like. And then you can do all of autumn leaves with 2 scales. And my brain went, oh. So now if I were to improvise on that, I'm not thinking nearly enough. I'm thinking 2 scales, and I'm going to be more authentic, right? So I think when we can do that for our students, it's really helpful. So let's just start talking about like choosing tunes. Like say you're teaching a middle school and you're choosing a jazz band rep. You want to make sure you're choosing tunes that your students can solo on, right? You're not going to choose super hard chord changes for kids who can't.
Appropriate for their level.
Yeah. So maybe what are some types of chord changes, types of tunes that people should be looking for in jazz band charts to know that their kids might be able to solo on it?
Autumn Leaves is a good example where it's a tune that's a song form tune, one of the types of song form, and it's diatonic. The harmonic movement's relatively slow because it does have a chord change every measure, and sometimes even more, but it stays in the same key for 4 measures at a time. So if you can find tunes where the harmonic movement is not super fast, and there are a ton of them, like I Got Rhythm's another one. There's many, many tunes where you can simplify the harmonic movement and slow it down. That gives a lot of students, and not just middle school, high school, college, when I'm learning a new tune. I mean, we're all the same in a way, but if you can slow down the harmonic movement to be at a rate of speed at which you can mentally process it on the fly as you're going through it, or slow the tempo down and work on it, that's hugely helpful for most people. I think Autumn Leaves is a good example because that first 4 bars is in G minor, or the first 4 bars is in B flat major. So it's a 2-5-1-4. Then it goes to the relative minor, which is really could be the same. If you play natural minor, it goes to the key of G minor for 4 bars. So if your harmonic speed is going by 4 bars at a time, instead of every single bar, there's a change you have to worry about. That's huge.
So I'm going to back up and just we'll explain that even a little bit slower for people who are like, what I don't remember, like, because there's people who are not theory people, right? Like I'm married to one of them. She's like, I hated music theory. Like she's a fantastic teacher, but you start talking theory and she goes,
until I was 30.
So we're talking about B flat major. I tell kids, and this might be wrong, but like a long time ago in jazz, they'd have like 16 bars of just like B flat 6. And I would say it's like it got boring. So the piano players started going like, let's go a 2 chord and a 5 chord, but we're not really leaving the key at all.
Or not even a 2 chord, just a 5 chord.
A 5 chord.
Or a 4 chord.
Yeah. So if people know, like if you see C minor 7, that's C to C with 2 flats. Right? If you see F7, that's F to F with 2 flats, which are both the same as the B flat major. Right. So we teach people, like if you see minor followed by the dominant, which is a 7, followed by major, like that's all the major scale of the 3rd chord.
It is, but your chances are good. You're not guaranteed.
Yep.
And the more modern the music, if it's Autumn Leaves in a song form, common practice period kind of tune, sure, that's very typical. If it's something that was just written in the last year or two by a modern composer, they might use those qualities, but
totally
they
different.
might not be tonicizing B flat anymore. Right?
So double check that the notes are the 2 and the 5 of the 1.
Yeah. So those chord changes, if it is a 2-5-1, all of the roots will resolve down by 5th.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Bach loved the sound of them so much. That's why to this day, 3-6-2-5-1, or even a tune like All the Things You Are, where it's 6-2-5-1-4. That's the first 5 bars of the tune in A flat. All those roots go down by 5th. We love the sound of resolving down by 5th. Mm-hmm. Still, that's that open sonority. Somehow, most Western music, that's a thing that we really love. And it doesn't matter if it's a major key, a minor key, the blues where you're in a dominant key, really.
Yeah.
It's like that down by 5. We like that sound. So back to your question, the roots that move down by 5 like that, if they do, that's your key. You're in that key. If it's a minor chord, a dominant chord, a major chord, another major chord could be 4 if it kept going.
Yep.
Like Autumn
And for
Leaves.
people who would get really overwhelmed by this, you need to have a mentor, have someone close to you who understands this stuff.
Yep.
And before you buy the chart, look at the solo section.
Yep.
And then say, if you can't kind of figure out what's going on, ask somebody.
Yep.
Because you might be able to simplify it into something, but they also have a lot of charts now where it's F7 for 18 bars.
Yeah.
Or 16 bars.
Yeah.
And that's it, because it's written so kids can simplify.
Absolutely. There's a lot of contemporary music where the body of the chart harmonically might be pretty complex with the melody. Certainly a lot of colors, a lot of alterations on chords that you can deal with or not when you're improvising, but they're there as a color in the music. And when it comes to the blowing section, it's simplified, which can be easier or more difficult, depending. It kind of depends on the person. I remember for me, when I was just out of high school, starting college, and I'd play, I don't know, So What, or a tune like that, where it's like D minor for the next minute, and then we get to the bridge and it's E flat minor for the longest time, then you're back to D minor. That was cool that there were no rules, and it was also harder to come up with stuff to play, because I don't know. I just remember not getting stimulus from elsewhere. And then finally, when I got to the point where it's like I'm playing Confirmation or some bebop head, and I hear the piano playing all these changes, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of them, but I'm getting a lot of stimulus and hearing stuff like, ooh, I could play this, I could play that.
And some of the patterns you've worked out in your practicing will start working out.
Yes.
Yeah. But a lot of times for the kids who haven't done that practice yet, that freedom is good.
I think so. I want to back up a couple of steps before we really start talking a lot about harmony. I think still to this day, one of the most important traditions in jazz, if not music in general, is the oral tradition. Mm-hmm. Listen, that's why we all liked it. Whatever it is we listen to, and I don't care if it's jazz, pop music, whoever it is you're into, it doesn't even matter. It's in a way, it's all the same. We all listen, and we all kind of got hooked for a reason if we're doing it. And that reason was probably because we heard something, not because we picked up a Persichetti theory book and opened it up and it was just really complex stuff right off the bat. And at least I didn't get into it. Yeah. And both my parents were music teachers, and that was way above me, but I liked the sound of it. So when you want to learn to improvise, say that's what we're talking about, I guess. When you want to learn to improvise, for me, it starts with listening. And listening is like internalization of a vernacular, let's say. So you speak differently than I, you're well-spoken. We're both well-spoken, and we can use different words to mean different things, and are a ton of the same words, probably mostly the same words, to mean different things. And why do they mean different things? Well, it's because how we present them, right? Mm-hmm. So if you listen, you learn that vernacular. It's like you're a little kid and you're learning your first words, and you learn juice. And you're like, juice. And you just yell it at your folks. And yeah, you'll get some juice, but you might get some scowls. And then you learn the word juice, please. And all of a sudden, they couldn't possibly bring you enough juice. They're smiling and loving you to death. Mm-hmm. All you did was learn one more word but it brought a whole different level to your game. To me, improvisation is that way. You listen, and when you listen, sure, listen for what notes sound cool on what chords and what patterns and all this, that more technical stuff. Yeah, that can be important. That can be a motivating factor for a lot of people. To me, I start by listening still to this day. How does it feel? I think there are another side. See, here I am getting sidetracked. I promised you I would. But I think there are many different reasons we all do music. And for me, it's how it feels. And to this day, as a player, whether I'm on PJO or whatever, the best bands I've played with or the worst bands I've played with, it's about when I solo and when it's my moment to be me, and I'm not just doing a job of playing the trombone book and how clean I am with all these other rules. When it's my moment for my personality, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't care if I miss notes. Sometimes I don't even care if I'm making the changes or not. I'm playing what I'm feeling right now. That's more important. And people continue to be willing to pay for that.
And some more ways to get kids to listen, because it's one of those things where they now have access to everything.
Yes.
But are they going to? Right. So trying to get them to do it. But some of the ways to do it is when they're coming into class, have something playing before big band, when they're after school, getting their snack and their juice and all that. Like, you got Miles on, and just I call it secondhand smoke. It's like they're not listening, but they're listening.
But they are. Yeah. And some of them will hear something that'll hook them.
Yeah.
Or find music that's a crossover to stuff they do dig.
Yep.
And if you can get them like, hey, have you ever heard Snarky Puppy? And from Snarky Puppy, you make it all the way to Count Basie eventually, but you got to hook them with something they're like, wow, they're great. I can really relate to that right now. And then it's like, well, who do you think Corey Henry listened to? Here's some great organ players. Or like, that didn't happen by mistake for him. And you like his playing so much. That's a human trait.
So we're going to go back to Autumn Leaves in a minute. But before we do that, I want to hit So What as well, because you mentioned that. Okay. And for people who don't know So What, and I'll put impressions, what other tunes like follow those exact same chord changes that were built on that D minor to E flat and back? Those are the only two tunes I know. Are there?
Yeah.
Are there other?
Sure, there are. That was a whole movement called the modal. That was part of the modal jazz movement, and some characteristics of that movement were slow down the harmonic. So it comes right after bebop. So like rhythm changes we'd mentioned quickly, where there are at least one chord change, if not two chord changes every measure. Yep. So the harmonic movement is really fast, number one, no matter the tempo of the tune. And Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, those guys, they also loved a lot of chromaticism in their harmony. So there are a lot of diminished passing chords, a lot of tritone substitutes, which I know
very technical stuff.
Very, very technical, going on virtuosic.
Right.
Technical, harmonically, tempo-wise, and even the heads and the melodies. It was high level
so
stuff.
Then this is the reaction to that.
To that. So Miles at the time, who was a bebopper, but Miles and other contemporaries, Coltrane, they're like, let's slow down the harmonic movement so much that there's almost no harmony anymore. So if you listen to like on So What, listen to Miles solo, he's still playing D minor, and the first chorus, he's lower in the chord, like D, F, A, and the second chorus, he's like A, C, E, like still playing D minor, but he's playing from the 7th,
the 9th to the 11th, and
the 11th. There's higher structure for more energy. The next solo is Coltrane, and he just starts playing waves of sound by the end of his blowing on that over that same one chord change. So looking at them, Miles' take on it at the time was, it's been simplified, and I'm really going to work on spelling out the chord change and the sound of that change that doesn't move. It's the same single chord change for 16 bars. Mm-hmm. Where Coltrane is like, oh no, we're in D minor, we're out of D minor, we're playing patterns that now they're in E flat, now they're in E. Like he just like a completely different approach to it. So it was very free and liberating for both of them, I think. In my experience for young students, simplifying chord changes to that point, I won't say it's good and bad, but there can be a loss of rules or stimulus if they're good rules. Yeah. And it can be free and liberating for some, and it can be confusing for others. Like I have nothing now. Where do I hang my coat? I don't see a coat hook or a door.
So one of the things that I like to do, and I urge people, like if you see my combos, I do my best to do a modal tune as simple as possible. Like one of our groups is doing impressions this year. And it's because I want them to be able to find that bridge. And the way I think of it is D minor 7, F major 7, A minor 7, C major. So it's those structures. So I'll literally have them think 8 bars of each. So they have some sort of way to develop that. And then the comping instruments do the same thing with like planing up and down and just play F major 7, the D still in the bass or whatever. So those are things I've done to try to get them to think within that chord structure that doesn't move too much. And then just playing something on the bridge that's like make the chord change up. I usually do less on the bridge. It's like just make sure you know the whatever that chord is. I just find that the modal concept is something people should think about and know that just because they do so what in a swing doesn't mean you have to.
Oh gosh, no.
You know, like I think I learned this from one of the jazz faculty at UNH, but that the concept that you can do any tune in any style,
any way you want.
in any like we're doing this tune, but we really need a bossa. Great, do it in a bossa. You know, I thought that was cool too.
Absolutely. I think even more than being cool, that's important because it's important that we move forward with music, but it is important that we look back and see where we've come from and what we've been to help us guide our path forward. So we're not just walking into a brick wall all the time and re-envisioning standards or whatever the music is. I don't care if it's jazz, re-envisioning good music or good art. That's wonderful. That's a great thing. And who knows where it's going to lead.
The version of impressions we're doing is like a halftime funk version. So it's kind of twice as fast as, you know, so you don't get lost as much in that D minor. Let's go back to the minor 2/5 because we talked about the major 2/5. And again, I'm going to speak in very general, basic terms for people. But if they have a piece that has a minor section, the 2 chord is going to have a flat 5.
It is. And it's the same 2 chord Bach had. Bach would not have used a 7, but in a minor key for Bach, a 2 chord was a diminished triad.
So like if we're in C minor, it's got the A flat in it.
That's the same chord. It's not a new chord. And you're borrowing up from the parallel.
But for people who see minor 7 flat 5, like all of a sudden their brain starts going, well, you're just in C minor. It just means it's a minor scale. And if you're going 2/5 in a minor key, would you use harmonic minor? Because that's got like the flat 5 and the major 7.
Here's my thought. And before I talk about that same flat 5 in the 2 chord, often the 5 will be altered too, and it'll have a flat 9,
which is the same note.
It's the same note, right? So it's a different sound. Things to think about. So back to Autumn Leaves. Things to think about when you're ways to make a minor key different than a major key. And in this case, it's G minor, which is the relative minor to B flat major. So really, if you sat down on piano and played the pure natural versions of both of those,
the same scale,
the same notes,
right?
You're just starting on G or on B flat. It's all the same. So one thought is, how do I make it sound different? How do I make G minor sound different than B flat major? The first thing I'll often have students of any age do, I'll say, think of yourself as having a different home base. G is now your home base. B flat's not your home base. Sure, it's the same notes. And then when you want to think of a chord that will go with that, think of so try to teach them the scale, although I'm not, at this point in my career, I'm not convinced teaching the scales before the chords or vice versa is better. They're all the same. It's a chicken and an egg. We're not sure which came first. Maybe the scales came first because they lend themselves to melodic playing more than chords do. And if you think before Bach, back to Gregorian chant, it was all this melismatic melody was what they were doing and not chords yet, right? So not until the 5.
I found with the students, and you know the level of students that I teach, like that age level, I find that the more chords we talk about, the less creative they are. And now when they've had enough experience, then I feel like, okay, now you're ready to start thinking about what notes are in the chord.
And that happens as soon as they can start recognizing patterns of chords, which of course there are, or qualities that are similar, so they can, this is how we think as humans. We think almost in binary code where we like to pigeonhole history. We have all these boxes where we put stuff, and it's like I talk about Bach as the common practice period because he summed it up. And in my mind, that's a box over here. And I can put all kinds of stuff in that box that fit there. And I talk about Gregorian chant, which is not Bach. That's a box to the left of Bach somewhere, which is a bunch of different stuff in that. I think when we're teaching students chord changes, they need to be able to organize their thoughts and find like groupings,
right,
and create them. That's how we think. That's how we have directions to drive home tonight after the gig's over, or whatever.
Right? And by us being able to, as teachers, look at chord changes and figure out what's going on.
Yes,
you're saying, forget all this, just play this, and just play this,
and eventually. So by the time they come to college, and I've got them, although I get some very beginning students are at all different levels, but I get a beginning improviser that I'm like, hey, we're in G minor. Let's today, G natural minor. It's all the notes of B flat major. And then the next lesson, I might be like, let's pretend it's G harmonic minor. So now we have an F sharp, a leading tone in it, which Bach liked, but it presented problems with the sixth. So they would raise the sixth because that was an augmented second between sixth and raise seventh. And you're going to hell if you do that. So you got to. So let's raise sixth and we're all saved. And on the way down, we'll lower them both because we don't want to pull backwards to the root when we're leaving and going away.
And that's melodic minor.
Minor. Those are all free game, or Dorian or Phrygian, like any form of minor. When you have a tune that lives in a minor key, you can play any form of minor, which pretty much gives you all of the notes of the major scale. The third's going to stay lowered. The rest of the notes kind of don't matter. They're not the major tendency tone. So if you go step by what I usually do, like with Autumn Leaves, I'll be like, G natural minor, cool. And after a week, we got that. Great. Now, how about G harmonic minor? Let's start adding F sharps. Now, when you play the F sharp, where does it want to go? Oh, up to G. It has a lot of pull up to 1, which is why Bach liked it, right? So, and then G melodic minor, let's raise 6. So now we have some non-harmonic tones that are not really in the key of G minor, 2 flats. They're, F sharp's not in 2 flats. So you can use those. I would then show them, listen, when they resolve, listen to where they want to resolve. And then the next thing I show students is like, and you don't have to resolve there. Do anything you want. I want you to know it's a thing. You make the choice of whether you want to do that or not.
Because you could leave it as a tension note. You could not resolve it. You could, or you could go down to the flatted 7th instead of up to the right, like the F sharp, go to F natural, and that's another sound.
And then the flat 9, a half step above the root. Then tell me how bad people want you to play G.
Right.
Play F sharp, and then play A flat, and they're going to be begging for you to play a G because of all the tension you just put in your line. And that's an enclosure. That's another bebop trick. But I think it's great to teach students of any level this, small amounts of theory at a time, and build on them, unless you get the rare student who just kind of gets it. And then you can explain things quicker and bigger steps. But most students, small, step by step by step, let them assimilate it and let them reproduce it. So it's not just talking about it and they get the math of it. The reason, if we think back to why we got into music, it's, at least for me, it's not the math. Math has become more important. I enjoy it more as the years have gone on. But it's like, what does it feel like? What does it sound like? That's why.
And going with that, what does it feel like thing? Like, it's my job, say you're my student, to read what kind of kid you are.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Are you this kind of kid who wants the chord changes? Can I, or are you the kid that I say, you know the melody, play off the melody, and that's the extent of what I'm going to give you, because I know for your situation, just playing the melody and then altering the rhythm in some way is a great way for you to improvise. That,
or playing the rhythm. Forget the melody. Ba-da-da-ba, ba-da-da-ba. There, that's Autumn Leaves. Do something.
So just having, and you might try something with a kid and it doesn't work and they're not creative and they don't like it. Well, finding whatever does for kids, because the reason they don't like to do it a lot of times is because they feel dumb. Like don't feel successful.
So they'll be embarrassed in front of their peers. And oddly enough, they all probably feel that way. So it's like one big happy circle.
So that's why we talk about kids improvising in a big group. And that's why we talk about always giving positive feedback to the young improvisers. Like never say anything that's not, that was amazing, great job, can't wait to hear you next time. You know, and then at some point you start giving some Because to a 11-year-old trombone player,
yeah,
you saying, "Oh, that note wasn't the best note."
Oh yeah, no.
Now I suck and I'm going to quit trombone. You know what I mean? Like,
and I wouldn't say that because I don't believe that. I think when you improvise, you're spontaneously composing, and whatever note you want to play is your choice to make. Whether the note goes with the chord change well or not, or needs to be resolved in a certain way or not, or has a ton of tension or no tension at all, you're playing nothing but the root. Great. They're all great choices. There's not a wrong note you can play. There's ways to try to treat some notes that might sound better, or maybe they don't sound better. I mean, some of my favorite more modern players are like, yeah, I'm playing Autumn Leaves, but I'm an A minor and you're in G minor. And this is the most burning solo you've heard in a while.
Yep.
And I haven't played a note in the right key for the longest time, and it's full of tension and it's so melodic and just beautiful. And you walk away like, oh, I wish I could do that. That's so cool. Back up a step. I think when you find a student, your comment where you find a student and they don't get it, so you try it a different way, or they respond differently, or you're right. All of us, you and I are both students too. Everybody responds differently to pretty much everything. We're all unique individuals in that way. I've been very fortunate to have some great teachers over my school career and peers that I've learned a lot from. And one of them was this Buddy Baker, who taught at Northern Colorado. He's my trombone teacher, great jazz player, played on Canton's band and stuff, but a great classical player as well. And I was a performance and PED student. So my doctorate's half performance and half how to teach. Mm-hmm. And everything we do in the lesson, he'd show me what to do and everything. Some things I get, some things. And then one lesson, finally, we were playing a Marcello sonata. And finally, I played this articulation the way he wanted. And I'm a doctoral student, and we're like a month into this. And he's like, stops me right in the middle of the phrase. He's like, that's perfect, Chris. You just articulated that beautifully, and you finally understood what I was after. And I'm like, okay, wow. He's like, oh, you're missing my point. And I'm like, can you explain your point, please? He's like, my point is, you're a doctoral student. We've been talking about this process and what I was hoping you would do. And I've tried 11 different ways to explain this to you until the light bulb came on. We're on way number 12, for instance, now, and you finally got it. And you're a doctoral student who can already play the horn. Can you imagine what a young kid? Mm-hmm. It's like anything you teach, you have to be able to have many ways to teach the same thing and approach the student from many different angles until you can speak to them.
Yep.
That has been a staple in my whole career. That's so true.
Yep.
And to think of it that way, working with the big band or with your drummer or whatever, it's just like, speak to them on their terms.
And the younger they are, the easier, like the less invested they are.
Yeah.
At any point, they can peace out and they're done.
Yeah.
Right. And like, so you want them to feel good while giving them appropriate feedback.
Yep.
You know, but the culture of being able to improvise, I think, is important one that you need to try to foster.
While giving them something to work on. Mm-hmm. So once they achieve it, they're like, wow, I did that. Like there's value to all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with improvising, your other comment was, how do we get young improvisers to start? For me, in my career, I don't get young improvisers too often. However, when I go down and work with schools, or I did summer camp, the jazz band and summer camp for years and really enjoyed it. And even in high school, summer camp band, half the band doesn't improvise.
Yep.
A whole bunch of them. What I got from another teacher, David Baker at Indiana, that's a good football game we need to watch coming right up. But anyway, and they typically don't have a good football team. But David Baker would like do these exercises where he shows some stuff. And he's like, here's one that works beautifully for me. And you're still a nice person doing it. I'm rehearsing the band. So here I am at summer camp. I'm rehearsing the band in a square, trombones on one side, saxes on another, trumpets on another, rhythm behind me. And my second alto player, he just does not want to improvise and he's petrified. And I'm working on the blues and I've taught him all this stuff, and we'd play it as a group. We'd play it in groups of 2 and 3 together. We'd trade 2 bars, 1 bar at a time, all that. And now it's time to you get your own little time to play. What I would do would be like somebody soloing over on the other side of the band. I'd look at that student. I'd be like, you're next. And I just turn my back to him and I go over to the trombone section. I'd be like, here are the backgrounds we're going to work on. I just start working with them.
You're not even quote unquote listening to them.
I'm not even
right?
listening,
Yeah.
and almost better. This is why I think it works really. I'm not looking at them. So they're unfortunately for a second probably staying there. Oh my Lord, I'm next. What's going to be worse? Not going when everybody knows I'm supposed to go next, or going. And to a person all these years, they go. And then by the time in 1 week we get to the concert, everybody on the band blows. Mm-hmm. I'll just go serpentile through the whole band, or I'll point at people willy-nilly. We'll do backgrounds, make up backgrounds. But that worked brilliantly for me and it was more social pressures. I think they all kind of wanted to improvise, and they certainly all want to receive the good kudos you get after a solo, whether it's a good, they're all good solos.
Yeah.
But it's like mom and dad are the audience. You can't do any wrong.
Do you spend valuable time all year correcting your students' hand position instead of focusing on the music? Thumb Gummy solves that. These simple, cost-effective teaching aids fit on trumpets and trombones to guide the right hand into proper playing position, reducing tension, improving form, and giving tactile feedback so students can focus on playing, not adjusting. It's easy to use, comfortable, and designed by teachers and players for beginners as well as older students. Join thousands already seeing the difference, and keep an eye out for our new clarinet thumb rest coming soon. Visit thumbgummy.com to learn more. That's thumbgummy.com. There are remarkable resources for all brass players, and they will do POs and work within your budget for your band program to get you what you need for your kids. Kaiser Productions is honored to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. As a publisher for Ludwig Masters and Southern Music, they uphold a proud tradition of outstanding musicianship. They share your passion for teaching through performance at all levels with music and resources for band and flexible instrumentation. Their catalog has essential literature by Francis Macbeth, James Barnes, and Frederick Fennell, as well as exciting new works, many by composers who've been guests on this very podcast. Whether you're looking for timeless classics, fresh new works, or your next contest piece, look no further than Kaiser Productions at kaiserproductions.com. That's KEISER Productions.com. Band or orchestra director looking to streamline your rehearsals and help your students take ownership of their intonation, you need to know about Tuner Caddy. It was invented by Mark Casperson, a veteran band director with 38 years in the classroom. Like lots of us, he was tired of drop tuners, scattered materials, and constant reminders. So he created a solution, and after 57 prototypes, the Tuner Caddy was born. It's been used by some of the most respected programs in the country. Mouse Middle School, Cooper Junior High School, Harbor Creek and Creek Valley, Rushing Middle School, Stiles and Grisham Middle Schools, and the Henry Middle School Band, which was a 2024 CCC Honor Band of Texas. These aren't just good groups, they're the best of the best. When they step on stage at Midwest, TMEA, or Music for All, many of them have Tuner Caddy right there with them. It's been used by university music ed professors to help train future teachers because it works. The classic fits most stands and includes a pencil holder. Student Pro is slim, binder ready, and magnetized, and the new Tuner Metronome combo transposes and has a 6-foot mic, ideal for students and directors alike. You can get them at tunercaddy.com, Music and Arts, Sweetwater, Premier Music Teaching Aids, and local retailers. They even offer grant writing support for educators. Check them out. Amano Music is a proud sponsor of the Growing Band Director podcast. If you're a band director looking for a clear path to grow your program, take a look at the Band Director's Goal Setting Planner. It helps you map out your priorities, organize your year, and stay focused on the things that truly move your program forward. Inside the planner, you'll find tools for long-term planning, weekly goal setting, reflection, and building stronger support systems for your students and community. You can find the Band Director's Goal Setting Planner at amanomusic.com. That's AAMANO music.com. And listeners to the Growing Band Director podcast receive a special 10% discount by entering the code GBD10 at checkout. That's GBD and the number 10 at checkout. Austin Custom Brass is a proud sponsor of today's podcast. They can be found online at austincustombrass.biz. The Austin Custom Brass shop is located in Kansas City, Missouri. They're frequent attendees at MEAs around the country, including a TMEA in Texas and Kansas and Missouri. They go to Midwest and Chicago and International Trumpet Guild, and give them a call today at 816-410-0826. If it's anything brass, they have it. It's one of the mental things that I think students struggle with, because I hear this a lot now, is kids think that you get up and improvise. They listen to Dr. O play a solo, that you're spontaneously coming up with every single thing that you play on the spot, and they don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But what they need to know is that you've shed tens of thousands of hours, and for the most part, you're going up there, and at least the first part of your solo is usually stuff you've practiced. Like, here's some things I've worked out. You may not have planned it, but you find yourself playing some of from your book of patterns, and then you're going to alter it as it goes. And yes, you're truly improvising, but you're taking from scales and patterns and licks and notes that you like and all that. So there is a planned portion of every professional's improvisation solo.
Well, I agree with the concept. I'm not sure the executions at least for me, the way I do it, I play most everything I play, I've played before.
Yep.
Or I've worked on it. I don't plan it out. I used to plan it out more when I was younger, but one time I'm playing with Conrad and we were talking about this subject, and he's like, man, in a big band, right before I stand up, I say an adjective to myself. And I try to execute the adjective to break out of that. I'm going to open up with lick number 1, and then I'm going to go into lick number 2, and then we'll see what happens. But if I can't think of something, I got licks number 3 and 4 right in the hopper, ready to play. I try not to do that, but here I am, 64 years old and tens of thousands of hours later. I've been working on it. Right before I play, often I'll stand up and I'll say, chill, burn, space. Like, just think of some adjective, some action verb, something to put your mind in a place to be like, let's execute that. So maybe you'll take a left instead of a right.
Yep.
You know, just that's one thing I've done to kind of break out of that. That said, improvising is spontaneous composition. And as composers, we are all influenced by our influences. We're all a product of our influences, whether you like it or not. The good news is you get to control some of them, but not most of them, probably in the true sense of life. But you can control some of your influences. So I do try not to repeat myself all the time and play the same thing. That said, it's not so much the lick. Here's where I think that's a little related, in that it's not so much the lick you play. There are certain sounds that happen over certain chord changes on certain tunes that you just hear. They're in my ear. So I don't know. What an example be? Autumn Leaves, for instance, if we're playing that, I'll get to a certain part of the tune and I hear this in my inner ear, and I might play a line that goes into that important note to me at the moment, and then a line that comes out of it. And last night, I still played that important note in a very similar place over a similar chord change, but I got into it and away from it completely differently.
Yep.
And you can listen to John Coltrane, Chris Potter. Chris Potter is a great example, somebody who just pretty much improvises for a living, one of the few on the planet. You can hear him. There's certain times and certain things he does, and he hears certain sounds and they come out in his playing, and it's, how'd you get there? It's like, we're still going to go to that big rock over there, you know, at some point, because that's what we hear in that area.
So for example, we talked about Autumn Leaves and what you hear. How many times have you judged Jazz Allstate and you hear on the C section kids copying your trombone lick because you did the thing, right? So now when you go,
too many.
Dee dee da da dum beep ba, but you go dee dee da da dum, right? Like, well, but that's something that when kids hear it, and I say, "Do you hear that? Do you like that?" Yes, play that.
Yeah.
Okay, play it. So then when you solo, I want you to try to play that on the head.
Yeah.
Right. So then it'll come out in their solos.
Yeah.
Whether or not they plan to do it or not, it's like, here's something that I can kind of control a little bit.
Yep.
And I can decide where I want to put it in.
Yep.
And then I want to use that.
Or get it in their ear at the very least.
Yep.
And yeah. Yeah. I do think when they're learning to, it's great that they listen to me, but I have my students. So I'm back to the very beginning of our talk where we're talking about listening and learning the idiom and vernacular. When students learn melodies from me, and this is from David Baker, being a product of my teachers. David used to say, when you're memorizing melodies, memorize melodies by ear. Don't look at the lead sheet. Don't open the real book. Learn the melody by ear and get at least a dozen people playing, and a couple of singers, a couple of bone players, a couple of sax players, a piano player, and a big band playing Autumn Leaves, so that you're the product of your influences. And if you have 12 different versions of Autumn Leaves, and one of them's a samba, and one of them's in D flat instead of G minor, and one's in E minor, which a lot of people play it in, and and one's Chet Baker, and he didn't even play the second half of the head. That's what your influences are, so that when you go to play Autumn Leaves, you don't just have one way. Because I listened to Chris Oberholtzer's audition tape when I was preparing, which would be sad. It's like, expand your horizons.
But I'm going to be the devil's advocate. You can't have two ways until you had one way.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So like when they first learn it, and then it's like, okay, you can do that. Now let's do it the way Miles did it.
But way number 2 can come much more quickly if you have more influence when you're in your formative moments with Autumn Leaves. If you listen to 12 people that are on your Spotify loop and only the melody, not even the blowing, I'm just the next 3 days, I listen to the melody for an hour a day over and over and over. It's going to be a conglomeration of all of that.
And then listen to the Winton version and see what the heck's going on with that.
I know, yeah, keep adding a beat every measure. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the written solo too, because I've gotten more and more accepting, and as I get older, of kids who like to learn a written solo. And I'm not saying that's what they have to play, but sometimes getting a kid to play a solo means you get them to play a written solo, because sometimes a written solo is really cool. And that's a gateway to get them to doing more types of solos. But here's a pet peeve of mine. And so I've said this on a couple episodes, and anybody who listens, who has influence over this, please listen to what I'm saying. If you're a professional player and you're playing on a recording of a chart that has a written solo in it, and it's an educational demo that's being made, I urge you to play the written solo, because the kid then hears this tune, and then they have a written solo that's 8 bars long that they want to play, but they can't even hear a professional play it because the person's off doing all this extra stuff. Now, I know people want to play more. If you're on that session, we might disagree with this, but if you're on that session, you might want to go, well, here's other trombone stuff they can do. Right. But this kid on step 1 gets overwhelmed because they're hearing this bebop lick and they're like, but I just want to learn how to play this. So I think there's a lot of soloists who make that harder for us teachers, that it'd be great to have a version that has that written solo. Now, yes, they should also listen to Louis Armstrong.
That's a publishing house discussion.
Yes.
Because it's the publisher.
But I've talked to the publishers, and a lot of times they say, well, sometimes we'll ask them, but well, I'm sorry, but like, you're putting the piece out, people are buying it. I'm telling you, band directors want to hear, if there's a written solo, maybe it doubles, maybe it's a repeat, play it once, and then do what you want.
Question for you then. When they play that written solo, should they stylize it to make it fit the piece better?
Yes.
Or should they play exactly what's on the page?
They should play the rhythms and the notes that are on the page, but then they should play articulations that are correct. Because usually those charts they try to do something, but you have to change what's
nuances, vibrato, all that kind of stuff, stylize it so it fits the piece better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say add a lot of notes.
Yeah, no. I'll agree with that. That would be a good study vehicle for students to see a written solo and actually hear it being played by somebody much better than them, being like, wow, that's how that goes.
Hear that? Sound like that.
Now, on the other side of the coin, for me, that's no longer an improvised solo. That's an etude you just worked out. Right? So,
but then once you learn that etude, you can then take those notes and you can improvise on those notes.
Sure. Or they could listen. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it has merit and purpose. To improvise, they could also listen to that same session when the player didn't play the written solo. They could listen to that solo. It's not written down. Just play along with it and get some of it. There's you like those 2 measures, what they sound like? Great. Put the recording on over and over again. Figure it out on your trombone and play along. You get it. There's merit to that too.
It's just, if they're going to write a written solo.
Okay. I'm not.
We should, no, maybe they have 2 takes. Maybe there's a take where it's like, hey, once you're past that, here's some other ideas to play. Right. But like, if there's only 1 take, I'm thinking of a kid from Kansas who has no jazz experience except for what this Jamming with Charlie by Dean Sorensen is like. If I see that, I want to be able to, because how often do we go, we're doing Sunset Glow, listen to the recording, and that's how you're going to kind of make your stylization.
What if Jamming by Charlie, though, the person who played it is one of Dean's trombone players from his school band, 3rd trombone player, and it's a written solo, and it's not very good, nor is it played really well. That could happen. Then is it still worthwhile for that kid to work on it, or should your student find something better, or the student from Kansas find something better?
Why would Dean not write a good written solo?
Okay, never mind. Yeah, I know. And I know Dean well, and I just saw him. Yes, but
yeah. So, there's also times where you say, I don't like that written solo. Don't play that. Right. But I just, that's a plug that I put out because it's important. Okay. So people should play modal tunes. Let's talk a little bit about blues.
Okay.
So again, if people don't know blues, we're just going to talk basic. It's got the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, and it's basically 12 bars long almost all the time.
And it's different than most other songs because home bass is dominant. not major or minor, which is most of our Western European music, right?
So for people who don't, again, the music theory, I know that's super simple, but
yeah,
when they say dominant, you mean the flat seven.
sure.
Yeah.
So the chord would be F7.
Yeah.
And that's 1, 3, 5, minor 7.
Because a lot of people don't remember that that means flat seven versus the F major seven, which has the, so
the leading tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. So the one chord is a dominant chord, and it's the root, major third, perfect fifth, minor seventh. That is the basic dominant chord. And usually that chord is the 5 of another key. In the blues, it is not. That F, if we're playing blues in F, home base number 1 is F7, and it's a dominant chord. So that's one thing. Blues, some rock and roll. I mean, there's other musics that do that, but that makes it different than Autumn Leaves. There are a lot of
and do you basically have kids play on the blues and here are the 3 chords and play on these chords, or do you give them a group of notes? Are you a blues scale person? Are you a minor pentatonic person? Like, where do you go for things?
Above, it depends on the students.
Okay.
So I think if you teach pentatonics, I think they're a great vehicle, especially for younger students, because we're taking notes away. So we're back to that. We're minimizing your choices. However, we're making more accessible to you by minimizing your choices in some way. And as soon as you're ready to add other stuff in, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't play a pentatonic scale, you're down to a 5-note scale. Instead, you lost 2 notes. You're no longer on a 7-note scale. There's you pay a price for that. If you play a blues scale, you're adding notes to a scale and with chromatic passing tones, and that scale's kind of not like a lot of our other diatonic scales in a major or minor key, right? So
I've met people who say they do, if they're under close supervision, blues scale works really well because that's the sound they really are going for.
They've heard it a lot.
Right. Yeah. But if they're not under close supervision, they just hang on that sharp 4.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to use it.
Yep. Or other scale. I think it all depends on the students. Or other scales they can play. Forget the 7th. They can play the first 3 notes of the chord. So like minimize chord changes and then teach the 7th of the chord. So have them base a solo literally on the notes that are in those chord changes.
Yep.
That's one way to do it. Other scales, play the dominant scale. You can play the bebop scale. So F bebop, if they wanted a sound with more running horizontal 8th note kind of lines, faster moving lines. The pentatonic scale is not going to be the one for, especially for brass players, because it's such a vertical.
Yeah.
If you're playing like it's just like, ooh, I lost an octave and a half of altitude within a second.
And for people who don't know a bebop scale, you're talking about the version that has a flat 7 and the major 7.
Yeah. So it's what it is a Mixolydian scale with an added passing tone. That's the major 7th. It's a chromatic passing tone from the root major 7 down to the minor 7. It's not a chord tone. And the beauty of that scale is if you're playing a tune that's in 4/4, for instance, any duple meter, what makes harmony sound like it's within the moment and within the chord change, the notes that land on beats. And you could prove me wrong, probably. This is just my opinion, but I'm a product of my teachers. So I've been taught, so it's their fault. You got that.
I got some calls to make. Yeah.
But anyway, the notes that land on the beat, whatever lands on beat 1, beat 3, beat 2, beat 4, in that order, that's providing our harmony. And if I'm in a scale that's an 8-note scale and I'm in 4/4 time, by adding that extra passing tone, the major 7th is a passing tone, I just made it an 8-note scale. So instead of ba da do 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 do, that's my Mixolydian scale. Do 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 do. That's my bebop scale. Now, if you count off a tempo, chord tones will land on beats forever if you stay in the scale. So if you wanted to build lines that were more bebop lines on the blues, you could be like, why don't we play from the root up to the 3rd, back to the root? Do, 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 do. Good. How about up to the 5th? Do, 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 do. How about we start on the 3rd? This would be weeks later, but start on the 3rd, go up to the 7th. Do, 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 do. Good. Now just willy-nilly up and down your whole range. Take a breath in until you run out of air. Stay in that scale. Like just go until you're out of air.
Yep.
Then I teach them, oh, here's a way to kind of close that line out. Then the next thing would be like, let's put a 2 chord in front of that. So
we'll go right back to that real quick. But what I want to say is So when you're talking about that running bebop scale,
Yes.
that's something you've practiced.
Okay.
So that when you're improvising on that, you have this running bebop scale that's like you're not thinking about every note, you're thinking about a collection of notes and what you're going for.
Yeah.
Like you're not going, I'm going to play an F and then a G and then an A and then a B flat, right? So that's what sometimes kids think you're thinking of every note.
Yep.
No, you're playing something that you've already practiced.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of in there.
Yes. Yeah. And early, maybe let's say you've been working on it and you're a strong high school player early on in your career. Maybe you're, I need to learn to arpeggiate the 2 chord. So boo doo 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 doo. So you learn that. Okay, you got this?
No.
Okay, so you arpeggiate the 2 chord, and you've already worked on the bebop scale on the 5 chord. Ba ba do ba da. When I go ba ba do ba, so 1 3 5 7. That's my minor related 2 chord. Boop. I go down by half step. That's the 3rd of the 5 chord. I would teach students that. That's going to be a chunk of time to work that out and understand all those concepts. And if they play out, fairly well, technically that's an octave. We're not, that's very playable stuff at whatever tempo they can play. And then I'll teach them when you get to bub, the 3rd of the 5 chord, do, do, do. That's the root of the 5 chords. So ba ba do ba do ba do boo do boo do down to the 7th and back up. That's how I would build bebop lines and teach them. And then ultimately I'd teach them something like boo doo 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 da or boo doo 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 da boo da, some kind of way to end that bebop line. Then how about we go back do ba da ba do ba da ba ya and boo da. There we ended it, and I went from the root up to the 3rd. Now put the 2 chord in front of it. Ba ba da ba ya ba da ba ba da ba da ba ya boo da. And once they play that, their eyes would be like, "Wow, that was a real line. That was great." It's just math that's like, now we're doing 5 times 5 and next week 6 times 6. It's like you're learning your times tables. It's all practiced. I know it's a lot of harmony to throw out in this conversation all at once, but it's really not that complex if you learn some basic scales that go with basic chords and how they're related and how you can use them. And if you don't have somebody like me or another teacher being like, "Hey, here's how to build a bebop scale," which by the way is David Baker. When I was at IU, David taught that, and he's got 3 books out. They're called How to Play Bebop, Volume 1, 2, and 3. Just start. Volume 1 is exactly what I was just singing and talking about. That's the first 10 pages of Volume 1. If you can teach them that, great. If not, what I would suggest would be with the student or the student by themselves or the teacher by themselves, sit down and listen to some stuff you dig and that's accessible to you as a player, that you think will be accessible to your students or that you can make accessible. It's like, oh gosh, no, after the first 8 bars, we're not going to get the rest of that. But the first 4 bars of that Stan Getz solo, they're gorgeous. And that is so nice. And I can teach that to my students and we can play it along with the recording or teach them out of context, just the notes, and figure out, if you have the theory chops, sit down and figure it out. What they're doing. And if you don't have the theory chops, go on YouTube. Somebody there does, and they'll be happy. I would maybe trust them with a grain of salt, depending on the vetted source, but there are all kinds of sources where you can learn stuff you don't know, especially with this, what we're talking about today. Learn what you don't know that are very practical, step-by-step. Here's a way to approach it and make your students better, get excitement going. Your band's going to sound better. And your big band plays, and holy cow, at the State Jazz Festival, they sounded great until your students stood up to solo. And then it was definitely a notch less, which is not even maybe a bad thing because we're all in it for the right reasons. However, I can't tell you how many bands at this point in my career, I can hear the teachers who have spent some time working on improvisation and working on style and like, we're playing whatever, Katie Do or something from the Kansas City Suite, and it's really not a hard chart to play. It's 100% style and how's it feel? Oh, and where do we put those 8th note hits on the last of the 8th note triplet? Like, just, it's all style. Most high school bands would probably have the chops to play most of that chart. A lot of them would. You can hear the bands where the teacher didn't probably even listen to the recording. They got the chart out and the band is not swinging. It's not balanced. Or the solos are so far below the level of what the band is. And then you can hear the band where it's just like, wow, things are coming along together.
Yep.
All the aspects of music. And as a college teacher, I'm very mindful of that in my own teaching.
I think it's really important that when people hand a tune for their jazz band out to play or a combo, that they have a plan and that they understand the harmonies. And if you don't think
music,
if I'm just saying, if you have chord changes and as a teacher, you don't have any idea about how to teach a student to play on it, you need to figure it out before you have to teach them.
Absolutely.
You can't just say play something and we'll go on, because that's how those things happen.
That's not good teaching.
Nope. But I think a lot of people get to the solo section and like, I don't know what to do. Well, don't do a tune if you can't understand what the harmony is. If you can't get that to your students, pick a tune that you can do that. So the solo section is good.
And if you don't understand it, don't be embarrassed to reach out to somebody who does, that can help you. And you and other peers, we've talked about, hey, I was thinking about programming this. What do you think about this? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, you should listen to this recording. And me with other peers of mine, I'll be like, man, I wanted to do something from this, but I don't know, where would I get that? Or what's going on in the middle of that chart? I'm not even sure. And they're like, you need to listen to this exact recording of it. And that will make more sense to you. We all need help, right? So and most people like helping. Most people like,
sure.
Oh, dude, check this out. That's great that you want to do that. Hey, I'll come out, work with your band. If you want me after you get things together, call me, whatever.
Yep.
And I still love that. But
and having teachers sit down at the piano and be able to play the chord changes of the tunes, even in a very simple, basic fashion. Having something so you can demonstrate to your kids what you want it to sound like is really important too.
I will say, with that in mind, if you can't play the chord changes of the tune, that's something to work on. And I would say my piano skills are not my strongest skill, but I can do stuff fairly well. But if you can't, you have iReal Pro. Buy iReal Pro, enter the chord changes, and it can be any tempo, any style, any key, change colors, change voicings. Like, you can change so much in that for $9 or whatever the app costs now as a teaching tool. I still use it all the time. And there, you're doing some chart that's an original composition by a local writer in your big band. Enter the chord changes. They can work on it. You can work on it in the group with more than one person.
Just be real. You just like improvising with the house disco sound and the glam pop. Like that's
the lights. See my office.
Last kind of tune I want to talk about is rhythm changes.
Okay.
Because I think it's in a really important form. That I think can be boiled down to very simple form, and then also can be made extremely complex. So usually if I'm introducing a combo or a band to rhythm changes, my approach is, it's like the Lester Leaps In approach. It's like B flat pentatonic for the A section, period. So then all of a sudden kids are playing right away on 3/4 of the tune. And then we talk about the bridge, and the bridge is where the bread is buttered, sort of thing. But I think it's a mistake to go 1 6 2 5 1 6 2 5 1 7. Like, I wait on that. I wait until kids have some success on the bridge first. But
before you work on the A section?
Before and we'll just do Lester Leaps In, and we'll never do all those other extra chords. Because we've only got 6 weeks and we want kids to play. And I want you to be able to hit the major 3 chord. Right.
Yes.
So we'll just skip right to the bridge. Say we're in C, because I'm a trumpet player. Right. So if you're playing on C pentatonic forever, there's a lot of G's you're going to be playing. Well, the minute you hit that bridge and you have to go E, G sharp, that's where a judge is going to go, you made the chord change. Or you didn't make the chord change.
Right.
So just go right to the bridge. And I think that's where the teaching of it is at the level I teach, is do you know these 4 scales, 3, 6, 2, 5, all with the major thirds?
Out of interest, do you teach them why it's an E7? Like, it goes up a major third from the key you're in on a dominant chord to start the bridge on rhythm changes. Do you teach them, here's why it's an E7? We changed keys?
I would say that it follows the melody from I Got Rhythm, but why originally?
I mean, I guess let me rephrase my question. Do you teach them not just the chord changed, but we're not in the key of C anymore?
Correct.
Right. We're in the key of A.
Right.
We have changed keys. Here's why a C sharp is important, or here's why.
See, I don't say A, because then they're going to be playing a lot of A's. when I want them playing G sharp. So I think like
you don't teach them the parent key of what it went to for those 2 bars.
No, we'll do like, because we don't do 2-5 within that. We'll do like E,
yep,
AA. Yep. We'll like do the roots in 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go, here's the G sharp to the G natural to the F sharp. Like we'll do that stuff too.
Yep.
And I've started doing E major, E minor.
Yep.
And then D major, D minor, like as a way to get that. You know, that's like another way to think
for
about
2 bars each.
Right.
Yeah.
Just the 5-note scales. And that like gets them that same sound.
I think on the bridge of rhythm changes, a great way, probably in my experience, the easiest way for me, at least, to simplify it, to help young students get through it, would be focus on the guide tones, just what you're talking about. So the third will resolve, since all the chords are dominant on the bridge of rhythm changes, and they all go down by fifths, so it's around the circle of fifths. The third will always want to resolve to the 7th of the next chord, which will want to resolve to the 3rd of the next chord, which will want to resolve to the 7th of the next chord. And the line will be by half step, chromatically by half step going down.
And when your piano player plays the 3rd and the 7th, it moves down on the same half steps. You're not jumping around the chords.
Just play just a tritone, just the 3rd and 7th. And that's an easy concept usually for students to latch on to. And then you start on the 7th and go to the 3rd. So do the other half of that interval. And once they hear that, then in my experience, they start hearing a horizontal path through that bridge instead of a path that is I played something and now I have to play it a 5th away. And then another 5th away. That's a vertical path through the bridge. Teach them those guide tones, how they resolve. And a cool thing to do on the A sections would be like, okay, now we know about 3rds and 7ths, because when you have a 2-5-1, for instance, you still have 3rds and 7ths, you're still moving by a 5th. When the chord qualities change, they don't always resolve by half step, but they are always a nice linear, they're by half step, by whole step, or common tone. It's always a nice, smooth, horizontal line through, again, vertically moving changes.
So usually the next thing that I'll do, well, first of all, are they not playing in C on the bridge? Like that's the.
I tell them why, just because, hey, it went to a different key. I don't care if you really know the key, but for the heck of it, we went to the key of A. Here's the key signature. This is why a C is not what you're looking for right now. A C sharp's going to work better for you.
So I'm not going to do more in the A sections until they're reasonably making the bridge. Like to me, that's the number thing.
6 of one, half dozen of another for me. So I work on the 8. I work on the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm usually doing it at a 3-month thing once a week with a group of kids. You know, it's kind of one of those situations. So I kind of usually don't get to a lot more than that. For me, the next thing I would do in the A section is in bar 5. That chromatic, the A, what is it? 1 flat 7 6 flat 6. Like because kids love that sound. Because it's such a great sound.
Yeah, it's a nice sound.
And it's like, can you improvise on this one scale, but then catch that?
Do you teach them notes that, like, here's the single note that changed? For instance, if we have, here's a B flat major chord and here's a B flat 7, the next chord is not box harmony.
All you got to do is play an A flat.
There's one note that changed. That's your important note. Get that sound in their ear. And now, great. Everything else can be the same. Let's build a line around that. I want to hear that one note as a key thing and what you come up with.
People think that if the chord changes, that it always changes everything. They just have to look at what notes actually change, play that note, and you've made the chord.
I teach that way. Even my college students, and freshman comes in, we're working on jury level 1 tunes. And in a way, it's kind of like I have to get it together in 3 months, because my students have to get 12 or 14 tunes memorized and totally together in 6 months 3 months for their check jury, 6 months to pass that level at the end of the year. So they're kind of, some of them, pretty hard pressed for time. I'll teach all the stuff we've talked about, but depending on the students, sometimes it really helps. Forget all of the notes that stay the same. You own those. You're playing those beautifully. Let's focus on the note that changes. It's the money note. And find that, and it changes. And now where do you think that wants to go? And let's use math and look at the next chord. Oh, that B flat, the B went to B flat, and that wants to go to A. And once you get that in their ear, then the 2-5-1s, it becomes a simpler thing for them.
And I forget how old I was when I realized that money note was so often the 3rd.
or the seventh,
or the seventh.
But most often,
you know, it's like
really common.
Like when you're in the blues and you're in the eighth bar, and all of a sudden there's a major sixth chord. It's like, well, the third of that note is the, you know, like just isolating where that one note is.
There are numerous exceptions, like in a minor key. Sometimes the money note's the flat 9, like on the dominant chord, the borrowed note because from the parallel, or on A train, it's like a flat 5. Like it's like, and the third bar we go to D7. It could be sharp 4 or sharp 5 or just sharp 4 or flat 5. Sometimes you see it all different ways, but it's like that's an A flat. And in the key of C, A was great, G was great, but now we have an A flat, and that third bar, that's a really important note, and you want to get that in your ear, and then resolve that. We're working our way back to C.
Yep.
You know, it's 2, 5, 1 back to C. So you can go A flat, can go up to A. Good. You're on the 2 chord, whatever. I'll definitely focus on that kind of thing, especially with younger students, so that they hear the important stuff in the chord changes and not all the chaff that kind of stays the same sometimes. The stuff that stays the same, I'll go back to my early comment about slowing down the harmonic movement. I think they hear that usually pretty well, because the harmony is going by and certain notes, B flat rhythm changes. B flat's a happy note usually. It's the note they're going to hear that hasn't changed a lot. It's all those other, instead of 6, we have a 5, a 2 going, like when you get into bebop version of rhythm, like Oleo or something like that. There's more borrowed chromaticism and notes that are borrowed very temporarily for 2 beats. But I'm like, hey, if you could hit the F sharp on that and resolve down to F, that sounds great. And once they get to hear it, you didn't have to talk about the rest of the chord. Those are all common tones. It's just like, just talk about the one thing that changed. So yes,
without talking
all of the above.
Without talking about any of the tunes, how quickly in one breath, how many of those level 1 jury tunes can you name?
Autumn Leaves, Bye Bye Blackbird, All of Me, which is maybe the hardest of all of them. I'm wasting my breath. I don't know. I can sing and play them all. I forget names of tunes so quick. Blue Bossa. I don't know.
That was more than one breath. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
I can play them all. If that counts. I forget names, but as soon as you sing it to me, I'll be cool with it. Whatever.
Lastly, some pro big band charts that people might not know their band can play.
This is a left turn.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Fine.
I like going left.
Because I'm a big fan of Benny Carter, and you've been a big reason because of that. Because like you've done a lot of them, and I heard a lot of them, and now I know my band can play a lot of them. And to me, he's of that same level of all these other players that we hear. It's like one of our sets almost always has, because a lot of the Benny Carter stuff is playable.
Yeah.
Right. So Basie's amazing. Ellington's amazing. Like there's all these things. But so I'm not just saying Benny Carter, but what charts come to your mind that like most high school bands can play? What charts?
I will answer that, but I just wanted to say one thing with Benny Carter. This is for you personally. Seacoast Big Band is doing a Benny Carter show. And we've had one rehearsal. We have another rehearsal Monday. The show's Tuesday night at Dover High School.
Cool.
And
Benny won't be there though.
Benny will not be there in spirit. Benny will be there. We're doing the complete Kansas City suite, and then the second set's a bunch of other Benny Carter stuff. It's killing. I love it. Well, let's see. I try to program with my group at school or all state bands or whatever. Any time I appear with a big band, I try to program stuff from more contemporary writers, because I think that's important that we all do that. I try to program from classic stuff the students might not have been able to play, but can play. They have the ability to. All of the above. And I try to pick other bands. So
you're not answering my question.
I know I'm going to answer your question. For instance, if I was programming an Ellington and I had a pretty strong bass player and the rest of the parts aren't so bad, Jack the Bear. First big bass solo, Jimmy Blanton. Or if I had a pretty strong alto player and it's not super technical, it's just so stylized, Isfahan. So you got Johnny Hodges. The scoops might be hard for him, but it's slow. And everybody else, the parts are not hard I won't say it's not hard to sound good,
right?
But technically the parts are not hard. It's all about the style and how it feels. So when I rehearse bands, I try to balance technical with phrasing and feeling. Like I try to balance all that, not get in one camp too much. I would try to program something, sure, from Basie's band. There's some really hard stuff, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not. Some of the earlier Nestico charts aren't super technical, very doable. And even if you want to do Hay Burner, maybe do it a little under tempo. And maybe if the trumpets get a little rangy here or there, good, play it down an octave. Who cares? I think it's way more important for all of our students to play the material than not play the material. And if you have to rewrite a section, say your trombones aren't very strong, good. It would be great if you had the chops to have one of your tenor players help the bones out on the first time through of the melody in Blues and Hoss Flat or whatever, because they have to carry the load and it can be a little windy for them. But if you put a tenor in the middle, tenor sax in the middle of the section, they'll sound great. And you just helped with that and then flip them back to tenor and it's all good.
And there's so many great arrangements, so many hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of arrangements
of great tunes that have still kept the character of the tune, like Blues and Hoss Flat. There's a Mark Taylor arrangement of it. There's just like, it doesn't have the like the soft shout chorus thing, but
you don't need a great bone section to play it.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah, it's like E flat major in the saxes or something.
It's a great chart. The character, the tune is still there. So I try to do that. My bigger thing now is not knowing the old stuff because I've spent my career learning that stuff and had teachers that were very hip to that too. My focus now is finding new young writers. That's gotten so much better. And so, for instance, a site I've been going to for, I don't know, 4 years now, 3 years, is Brava. And it's all women writers. And I saw Annie Booth, who's one of my favorites on Brava. And she had a band at the Gen Conference last week, and they were great. And I had some friends on the band. Greg Gisbert was on it and stuff. But they did all her music and some new ones that I can't go by quick enough. Some of them I already had, But and people like Annie or others, they'll write, well, this is a grade 5. This is a pro series above grade 5, and it's multi-metric and real tricky. And this is a grade 2. And it's as hip as the grade 5. It's like modern. And I have found often, and we chatted about this in the lobby, often that on some of those charts, the harmonic structure behind the melody can sometimes be certainly non-common practice period harmony, which is a little trickier to teach in a way sometimes, maybe, depending on what it is. And it sometimes can be kind of complex. And then when it gets to the blow-in section, there's 2 chords, D minor and E minor, and they alternate every other bar. So they're very hip to let's slow the harmony down, but we're going to give them changes that have the same ethereal, floaty kind of feel to what the rest of the tune is. So, but they're going to be successful on working on improvising in this section. The younger writers often are doing this because guys like you and teaching jazz in the schools, forget college, but high schools or middle schools, it's relatively a young sport. I mean, when I was in college, I graduated high school in 79. When I started college, Westfield State had a jazz degree, and it was one of the few in New England. There were a whole lot of schools that didn't have a jazz performance major. They had big bands, but they didn't have all the curriculum that goes with it. No, you'll take improv classes and all this kind of stuff. And then high schools didn't at all. That's all changing now over time, but jazz has not been in the schools is an academic study for really that long when you compare it to the common practice period in band music.
Another composer I really like to use is Oliver Nelson.
Yes.
Because there's so much of that, I mean, when I first heard I Hope in Time a Change Will Come, my life changed. I was like, what a great piece of music. And it's written for soprano. I've done it with a tenor player. That's a piece of music that is super authentic, but not that hard. There's stuff out there. Last year we did Black, Brown, and Beautiful, which I'm not going to say isn't hard because, man, the amount of half steps in that sucker is just so hard.
That's super technical.
Yes.
Hard to put together.
Yeah.
And hard to hear.
There's just so much great stuff out there that people don't realize. Oh, we can't play that pro chart.
Yeah.
Well, listen to the chart.
Yeah, you might be
look at it. You might be able to play it.
Yep.
And I'm going to put out again before we go my favorite chart, and I want you to think about your favorite chart.
Oh.
You got to pick one.
What, can I change my mind in 10 minutes?
We will be done recording by then, so change your mind whenever you want.
Okay, good.
My favorite chart, and I don't say this as a performer, I say this as what it allows me to teach students, is Creole Love Call, Mark Taylor.
Really?
That chart is a slow blues that you can use as a middle tune. It's a B flat blues. Yeah. It's Ellington. There's stories behind it. Yeah. It's second line New Orleans music. Yeah. You can teach, like, I can teach anything I want to teach. Not actually, but that tune I found to be amazing over the years. I'm using it with District 2 this year.
I don't know his arrangement. Does it have wordless vocals in it?
No. It's in there, but you could easily add it.
Yeah.
Like the part is there.
One of the important things of that. Ellington had a singer with no words. And like there was a sound. Well,
do you know what that came from? Because I know something the doctor doesn't know. Okay. So no, they're playing the tune and the singer, I forget her name, but this was in the 20s, 30s.
Joya Cheryl, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So she was singing on other tunes and she was backstage.
Yeah.
And then they were playing Creole Love Call. And all of a sudden she starts singing this extra line, the kind of line. Yeah. And then he said he heard that. Like, yes. And all of a sudden that became the part of the chart.
Oh,
so, I mean, there's like a loud shout chorus at what?
Yeah.
Whatever, 70 beats a minute. I mean, that like the amount of teaching you can do in a tune. So it's listed as a medium easy.
Yeah.
But you could do it with a really good middle school. Yeah. You could do it with an all-state band. Like it's Ellington and it's awesome. So
you could do it with any band, probably.
I've said my piece.
Okay. My favorite, I guess also Ellington influenced. It would be Love Theme from Spartacus and Maria Schneider's arrangement, which is not published, but I've been fortunate to play. But it's just, the writing is very Ellingtonian and it's a tenor feature. Everybody's exposed all the time. It's gorgeous. It's a heartbreaking piece of music. It's so transparent. You can just like hear right through it all the time.
Wow.
It's just, it's breathtaking. It really is. So
cool.
There you go. Check it out.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, thank you very much, Kyle. This has been fun. Enjoy it.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.